Okay. Got that going. All right. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
How's everyone doing? Thank you so much for jumping on the producer's mindset. I have the honor of having Naomi here with the South Bay office. Naomi, how you doing?
Doing good. Thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great.
Thanks again for doing this for us. I wanted to share, your journey as you got into real estate. So take us back before even real estate. What did you do before you started real estate?
So I was purchasing manager for the big chain stores, at Bath and Beyond, JCPenney, Sears, Overstock, Home Goods, anything to do with soft goods.
Okay.
I did that for 15 years. A lot of traveling, a lot of spending nights at hotels, airports. And it was great. It was, everybody's dream to travel and go to different cities.
Yeah.
It was a great job. I loved it. I thought I was gonna do that until I retired.
Right.
And then COVID hit.
Okay.
And I got the opportunity to spend time at home and see how that was, right? Cooking. I think everybody during COVID decided to become a chef or learned to cook.
Yeah.
And I loved it and it was great for me. And for that second I said, well, what if I change careers? What if I move on and discover something new? And I went online and I said, okay, what career could produce the same amount of money as what I was doing during that time?
Right.
And I had two options. And I shared this with you already, but it was either I became an expert or I did real estate, right? And I knew I was too old to do that. So I said, you know what? Real estate it is. I knew nothing about real estate.
So just out of curiosity, you were just kind of exploring some options and it was do this or do real estate.
Correct. So I only had one option really.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, real estate it is. But again, it was during COVID, right? It was during the time where everything was shut down. I did the classes online. And when I was ready to take the test, they said, well, there's no test taking right now, right? I think they were doing like 5 or 10 people at a time and everything was booked. So I said, well, I guess I'm back to my career. And then one day, I think it was like in June, July, I received a call and they were like, we have one spot. Someone canceled, someone got sick with COVID.
Right.
You could come and take that spot. I did the test, passed, and I was licensed officially September 2020. And I was like, great, now what do I do? Right. So talking to my husband, he was like, well, we really don't have to sell houses. I'm like, well, I just got licensed for that, right? That's the whole point of it. And he was like, well, let's flip houses.
So before we go into the flip, your husband also Pepe is in real estate too.
Correct, he is.
Did you both get your real estate license in 2020?
No.
Okay.
So he comes from the restaurant industry. He was a chef.
Okay.
And he loved what he was doing, but again, the restaurants closed during COVID.
Right.
And he was like, well, let's just go into flips. We always talked about it. We always said we wanted to explore that. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I knew I had to leave my license somewhere. I found the office, and when searching for the right office, I Googled all the realtors in the offices, and I kind of checked their productivity, and I'm like, okay, where do I want to be? I want to be with the top producers. I want to be with the best. And I discovered KW. I joined, and all of a sudden I received a call, and they say, hey, you're a realtor, right? And he's my cousin. And I'm like, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm a realtor.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I want to buy a house. I remember the first day going to show a house. I didn't know how to open a Supra. I'm like, what do I do, right? Like, how do you do this?
Yeah.
Luckily, I got the best mentor in the world. I mean, Brooke is still something very close to my heart because she taught me everything without having any sometimes mentors hold back, and she did it. She was tough on me, but she taught me everything she knows.
Good.
And she was the best. And I dragged Pepe with me. I was like, Pepe, come on, they're gonna kidnap me if I go do this by myself. So he was my driver. And he loved it because it was her way of kind of getting out of the house after being locked up for a whole year. Um, and a year later, he decided to get his license.
Okay.
And we formed our team. At first, it was kind of a team so we could flip homes.
Yeah.
And we got crazy busy. And we haven't stopped ever since.
Wonderful. So 2020 was an interesting time in your career. That's when you pivot, transition into real estate
Correct.
during COVID, and it's been a consistent time in your real estate career.
Yes.
Awesome. So let's explore a little bit. I know that you have Joebellarue Homes is your
Joebellarue, yes.
so tell us a little bit about what that is.
So that name came up probably a year before we did real estate. We wanted to open our company for the flip business.
Okay.
And we have 3 wonderful kids. And I didn't want to name my real estate business Ramirez, right? I was like, it's so common, it's probably out there a million times. So I said I needed a good name. And I combined my 3 kids' names, Joseph, Isabella, and Ruben, and Joebellarue came.
Amazing.
We got the DBA, and then later when we were licensed, we formed the team.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's go back when your husband Pepe, when did he get his real
He
estate
got
license?
a year
Because-
later.
Okay, so a year later.
A year
he got-
later.
Okay.
And we noticed it was just becoming very busy. And I love being behind a computer, right? That was my job for 15 years. And I'm a very perfectionist on my paperwork and double checking my work. But I didn't like being on the road so much. I came from traveling, being in airports all day long. The road wasn't for me. And Pepe, he loves exploring. I mean, you know him, he loves being out on the field. And people liked him more than they did me. And they wanted to spend more time with him. So it kind of worked out where he's out on the field, he's out showing houses, he's out, with their clients.
So what I'm hearing, Nohemi, is that he's kind of your legwork. He does
Correct.
all of the legwork for you.
Yes,
While you're on the computer, he's out there opening up,
correct.
showing homes, doing
Yes.
what he needs to do.
He's actually on his way right now to Victorville.
Is he really?
Yes,
Amazing.
yes, showings at 10 a.m. And he loves it. He looks forward to that. I usually am the one, meeting with the client, getting them to the right lender.
Yeah,
And then from there, he takes them on, and they know that. I think most of our clients, when we do the initial introduction and the initial meeting, we kind of set the standards. We say, he's gonna be the one showing you, he's gonna be the one out in the field with you,
sure.
going through the inspections, the appraisals, and all that. And at the end, it's gonna be, any paperwork, any questions with your documents, they all come to me. And then at the end, kind of, we both go out there and give the keys.
Yeah, amazing. That's awesome. So let's go back again to 2020 when you got your real estate license. How was that experience for you in the very beginning? Obviously, you had a great mentor that really guided you, but where did you start really seeing momentum in your business that you can share with the group?
So I think after the first deal, right? So I got licensed in September. My first deal was closed in December of that year. And from there, it was more like people were reaching out to me. And they were like, hey, could you help me? Could you help me? And I think it was that moment when I realized I love real estate. I love the fact that you get to be part of someone's one of the most important decisions of their life.
Sure.
And being there, holding their hand, answering the questions, helping them all through the steps. That's when I realized, like, wow, this is beautiful, right? It's not so much about the money at this point. It's about being able to be in someone's life during their most important time.
Yeah,
And then becoming family, becoming friends. I think a lot of our business is repeated business.
Mm.
Or business where I just help the dad, now let's help the son, the daughter, the brother, the sister. And that's beautiful, right? Because it almost like after a while they call you and they invite you to their parties, they invite you to their events, and you're part of their culture and their family now.
Amazing. So what I'm hearing is a lot of referrals,
A lot.
family
Yes.
referrals.
Yes.
Yeah. And how important is that?
Very. I mean, the first year of real estate, I think like most agents, I was like, okay, I need referrals, right? Like I was getting referrals, but I wanted more. I think I set myself in a mindset of like trying to close, I don't know, 20, 30 deals in my first year. And I explored Zillow and I hated it. I was running around like a chicken without a head, trying to show properties, and everybody had a realtor. They were just using me to show them and open the doors.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, and I was wasting money every month, and it was like I was getting one lead that probably was gonna be ready in 5, 10 years from now. And I was like, okay, this is not working. So after, I think I was in Silo for 4 months and I said, I'm done. Like, this is not for me. I need to see how I'm gonna get referrals without spending so much money,
Sure.
so much time, and so much energy. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna focus on something unique for me, right? For that makes sense for me. And I think referrals and minorities were my main focus. I said, I'm gonna go with people that maybe feel they're not as important to other realtors. And I started talking to people and they were like, yeah, I had a realtor, but my realtor never had time for me. Or they didn't have the lender that had my unique program, right? And I started helping them. And once I closed a deal or two, then they started referring me and said, they have time. Pepe will listen to us. Pepe will take us to a city, and if that city is not what we're looking for, then we'll go to the next city, right? And people like that and appreciate that you're there for them. And after a while, they also don't want to make you spend crazy amount of times that they'll kind of say, you know what, this is the home. This is what I'm looking for. And it, that's what makes the business great.
Amazing. Let's go into your second year
Okay.
real estate. Were you more buyer heavy or seller heavy second year of your career?
So for
And now you have Pepe too, right?
Yes.
Year after.
Yes, so a year after, so our first year, we had one listing. All of them were buyers, the rest of them, right? We closed 20 deals on first year, and it was 19 buyers and one seller. And I think because we had so many more buyers, I like buyers better. I kind of was going after the buyers, right? Because I had mastered that and it was great. And I knew exactly the steps that needed to be taken on a buyer. Versus seller, I had done one, it was a condo. And I was like, well, there's not so much that connection. It's mainly here's the paperwork, I'm doing open houses, which I loved. But I had more of a connection with my buyers. So my second year, I went after buyers. That's all I wanted. I wasn't even interested in the listings.
And it was a good time too, because at that time, rates were
They were
pretty
great.
low. Yeah,
They were great.
yeah.
So I love doing that. And then my office kept on pushing, you have to go after the sellers. You have to go after the sellers. And I'm like, that's a good challenge for year number 3. That's gonna be my goal. But in going with sellers, I think, and everybody has this problem, they always know someone. I mean, how many realtors are in California, right? You always know someone. So then that's when I said, okay, I have to go after a special niche. Something that is unique for my business, again, that it's not like everyone is doing this, right? And exploring what was good and what was one of the reasons that most people were selling, I discovered divorces.
Mm.
And I started going on to special classes for divorce realtor, like to be able to handle them, and started going after events that I knew attorneys were going to be there that handle divorces.
Got it.
And I got my certification for divorces. And my third year, I think I closed around 12 deals of divorces.
Interesting. 12.
12,
And these were all divorce
all divorced.
transactions.
My first divorce, it was, I was helping, I was co-listing. And, I was helping the wife. And I remember Pepe looking at me and me being on the phone with her until 1 in the morning. And he's like, you have to be kidding me. Like, you're
You got to do whatever it takes.
stop listening to the story, and I think I cried with her, right? We became good friends. I was there with her through her whole divorce, and she's like, "You're the best. I'm gonna refer you to 5 more." I'm like, "All your friends are getting divorced, great, send them over." So that's what we've been doing to get listings.
Well, that's a very unique niche to get into divorce because there's a lot of emotions.
There is.
Emotions for both parties, the
Right.
husband and the wife. Now, it takes a very unique realtor to be able to handle divorces because it's, as it is, it's already very emotional roller
It is.
coaster, right? And working with buyers, working with sellers, but now it's just a layer of additional strain because you got two emotional people
Correct.
that either, are battling it out. And how as
90% of the time.
yeah, how is it as a realtor, you kind of navigate that, right?
You just have to put yourself in their shoes, and kind of understand what they're going through, all the emotions, kind of be the strong party of the whole situation, and kind of remind them and say, you guys already took the decision. This is the best for your relationship, for your family. Now we just have to be smooth about it, be calm about it. And don't get me wrong, there's days where they just lose it and they hate and they're like, I'm not signing that. There is no way we're doing this.
Right.
Especially if you're on both sides, right? If you're representing both parties, then it's basically like doing a deal twice because you have to explain it to them in separate calls and separate texts, and they're always fighting. So it's one of those things where you just have to say, well, no, you had already said we were going to do this.
Yeah.
You can't just change your mind because you want to go against your wife or against your husband. We have to do it this way. We already agreed we were going to accept that offer. You have to keep on reminding them and telling them,
Sure.
our main goal is to get rid of the house so you can move on with your life.
Yeah, that's amazing. To do so many transactions that year in divorces, that's pretty amazing. So congratulations
Thank
to
you.
you on that. And how was Pepe in the midst of all this?
So Pepe was basically open houses. He was
Yeah.
doing open houses. He was handling that part of it where, he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
I was more the firm, we need to do this. This is how it's gonna happen.
Sure.
We agreed on it. And Pepe would show up and be like, talk to Nohemi. She's the mean one. I'm just here to do the open houses, which was important, right? Because he was the nice guy that they could go and complain to and say, this is not right. My wife is doing this and I hate it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to stage red. I wanted to stage white or whatever it was. And he would always say, yeah, let's go get a coffee. And he would kind of calm them down.
Yeah.
So Pepe's like, everybody that knows Pepe knows he's the nice guy of the team.
I know Pepe and he's an amazing guy.
Thank you.
Super humble and just a pleasant person, human being, you can see how it resembles, his personality and how he's like easy to talk to,
Very.
where you're like going 100 miles.
Yes.
All right, so let's go now into your third year. You and Pepe have done an amazing job in your career, from 2020 up until now, and we're going to touch a little bit on today and where your goals and expectations, because this year you're shooting to do 30
30 doors.
30 deals.
So basically the way we count them, right? And I'm sure everybody counts them differently. Whatever makes sense for them, it's great. We do by doors because we do a lot of our deals where we double them.
Got it.
That's what we go. That's our goal. We go after that.
Sure.
And I know this is crazy, and this is against what a lot of people are trained, but we don't do the normal door knocking. We don't do the normal cold calling. We only door knock when we have an open house. That's the only way you'll see us door knocking, and it's usually someone like one of my lenders door knocking.
Yeah.
Right? We don't cold call where we're calling just, like, oh, let me just grab a list and start calling people. We always do it in a strategic way of leads that we get from, one of our events.
Sure.
That's what we cold call.
Got it.
So yes, year number 3, we're there, we're doing open houses. We love open houses. We find the best people in open houses.
Yeah,
If they're not referrals, they're coming out of open houses.
got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, open houses is definitely a niche.
Mhm.
And if you do it well, there's so many opportunities with open houses. So let's dive deep into one of your most difficult transactions that you were able to navigate and ultimately finish it. All of them, right?
I mean, every deal, right? Every deal is unique, and you have, I think, and people will agree with me on this. No deal is an easy deal, right? It's not like if we get a deal and we're like, "Ah, we'll close it in 5 minutes, easy breezy." It just doesn't happen that way. Even when you think it's gonna be great, a hiccup comes down, and then you're like, oh man, what just happened there? I think one of the hardest deals that I went through was, I was representing a buyer, and the house was in foreclosure. And the listing agent was just moving so slow. And I think this is one of the things that I learned, right? When you're a listing agent and you have so many deals and you're all over the place,
Yeah,
if you can't handle them, get help. Get someone to at least help you answer the calls or do the paperwork, hire a TC. Don't just think it's okay to ignore calls, ignore texts, because next thing you lose that deal. And this is exactly what happened. The bank sold the house in an auction when we were 5 days from closing.
like, wow.
And my buyer was just, he had spent money on inspection, appraisal. We were, the CD was signed and the house was sold. So I was like, what do I do? Right? I was still new, like my first year. I was like, I wanted to cry. And I'm like, okay. I picked up the phone, and I called the buyer, which was an investor, or actually in Manhattan Beach. And I called them and I said, hey, you just bought a house and we were in escrow for this amount and you bought it for this amount. If you sell it to my client, you stand to make a $30,000 profit without even touching that house. And I mean, my client, all they wanted was their house. They had seen themselves, in that house.
Yeah,
And they're like, wow, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'll email you the contract right now. We could just pick up where we left off. We could close you in 10 days, right? Um, they were like, okay, let me think about it. And sure enough, they were not calling me back 2 days later. And I'm like, oh, they're gonna pass. I get a call early in the morning and they say, you know what? We're gonna do it.
wow. So that's amazing. That's thinking outside the box. Who would have ever thought to go to the investor that bought the place and now navigate that, and make it a win-win? Your clients were happy, the investor that bought the place was happy, they didn't have to do anything, and they made a profit from it.
Correct.
Amazing. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
you.
really cool. All right, so let's go into now this year. Because year to date, you're at how many units?
18.
18
doors. Remember,
18
we're counting
doors.
per doors.
Yeah.
If there's a deal that we represent the buyer and the seller, then we count it as.
Got it. So 18 doors right now, year to date, that should successfully close.
Correct.
Okay, and how many pendings do you have right now?
We have 5 escrows. One of them we're doubling.
Okay, so then that
So
puts us
6
at
doors.
6 doors, so that puts us, what's the arithmetic on that? So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24.
Correct.
So you got right now in the pipeline about 6 pending that should be closing in the next month and a half or so.
Correct, they're all supposed to go close in October.
Okay, so October, and we have October, which is next week.
Mhm.
Then we have November, December.
Correct,
The ultimate goal is to get to what by the
30.
end? So 30 doors.
30, and I have 3 active listings and 2 coming soon.
Beautiful. Wow. How do you do it?
You know, I think, now that I went into listings, one of the things, and I think if anybody's gonna take this, from me, is when you go to a listing presentation, they probably already interviewed 2 other people, right?
Yeah.
Or at least one other person, and then you have something against you where they say, well, my best friend knows a realtor.
Mm.
You know, my neighbor's a realtor, my cousin's a realtor. You know, the guy I play soccer with is a realtor. Um, my coworker's a realtor. So you already have that against you, right? Because, well, you don't know them like that,
Right.
especially if it's someone new that you just met. So the one thing that I always tell people, and that I see in their faces, they're like, oh, I didn't think about that, is, well, when you go to the dentist, do you just go with the guy next door? Or do you actually do your homework on them? And if you do your homework on them, how do you do your homework on them? The first thing they say, well, I Google them. And I'm like, oh, great. Okay, so you Google them for what? Well, to see what kind of reviews they have, to see, you know, if they have pulled the wrong tooth out, to see if, you know, they're gonna let me die in the room. And I say, okay, great. So when you Google them, you read the reviews, and then you make your decision on who you're gonna work with. Well, yeah, of course, that's what I do. Okay, so wouldn't you think it's normal to do the same thing with your realtor? And then that's when you see their face change, right? And they're like, well, should I be Googling you? I'm like, sure, go ahead, by all means. So, but I say, before you do that, before you Google me, I want you to Google the other 2 realtors. And the moment they grab their laptop, they grab their phone, and they type in, you know, the other 2 anonymous realtors that they haven't told me who I'm competing with.
Right.
And they're like, you know, you could hear them between themselves saying, oh, after reviews, you know. And I'm here very, you know, like, okay, whatever. I'm giving you your space, your time. And then they pull up my name. And we have over 50 reviews. I think we're at 59. And I said, well, read my reviews. And you know, I can't pay for that. You know, those are people that actually work with me. And I could actually give you each address of each person that I close with,
Yeah.
that has a review there. And they start reading the reviews.
Right.
And then I say, well, if I was your dentist, would you work with me versus your other 2 realtors? And 99% of the time, they will say, where do we sign?
Amazing.
I think the only 2 deals that I have lost in listing is because they were just not being realistic on the number. And I was not gonna set myself up for failure. And I decided to pass. And I said, you know what? Go with the other agent that's gonna overprice your house and let it sit in the market for, you know, X amount of days.
And sometimes it's okay to do that as well, right? Because if they're
Yes.
not being realistic, then you're gonna be sitting on a property that will probably never sell, or you're gonna be consistently asking them for a price reduction, right?
Correct.
You wanna work with buyers, sellers that are motivated, but also are realistic,
Correct.
you know, so that's awesome. That's a great point to really give to the audience, the importance of reviews, right?
Yes.
Because again, like when you're searching for a restaurant, a doctor, car wash, what do? You go into reviews, right? And see if there's any good reviews or bad reviews, because that'll put some thought on how you're gonna navigate that, if you're gonna use that service or not.
Correct.
Oh, that's amazing. That's awesome. We'll touch a little bit. I know we're cutting it very, very close. So let's just touch a little bit. You also do investments, right?
Correct.
So you've said you've done flips, but
So going back to our original reason why we joined real estate, right? We do flips. We actually would do work with a lot of our clients in helping them flip, right? We find them the right property, we see the vision of it. We're actually I'm gonna say we, but it's really Pepe.
Yeah.
Pepe's there holding their hand and, let's do this, let's add a room, let's add a bathroom, let's change the kitchen. But when we do our flips, we, we see the potential in these properties and we keep them. So we end up keeping the properties because we're
So
just
not
so
necessarily,
passionate.
they're not necessarily flips. They're basically you fix and you hold and use them as.
They start as flips, right? That's the whole point. When we're looking at them, we're like, we're gonna flip that one, no problem. We'll put it in the market in 3 months, and then next thing you know, they're in the market, but to rent
Yeah,
or not to flip. And I think one of the things with real estate is, and this is our goal for most of us realtors is building an empire or where you could retire on, right? And getting to that number amount of doors where you could say, I'm gonna be a real estate agent for a hobby and not for a need.
right.
And I think that's ultimate the goal, right? I'm sure that at the beginning when I started, I said, let me start with flips. I didn't have an idea of how many flips or how many houses I wanted to hold. Now,
But you had a vision
but I had a vision, yes.
and you stayed to your vision and you devoted and dedicated. And with the obvious help of Pepe, you guys persevered and did what you needed to do.
Yes, I think this business is not easy, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of sacrifice, there's a lot of time spent, a lot of running around, a lot of it's not your normal 8 to 5 job,
Yeah.
Monday through Friday, right?
Of course not, if you're answering calls at 1, 2 in the morning.
I'm not a morning person. You don't call me at 6 in the morning, but I will answer at 1.
Yeah,
But I think there's a lot of rewarding pieces to this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, when you give those keys, I think one of my best things that I love seeing when giving keys out is those little kids coming to us and hugging us and saying, thank you,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes they're 5, 6 years old and they're saying, thank you for getting me that house. I think that has no price.
well, Naomi, if any of our audience wants to find you on social media, what's the best place to find you on social?
Nohemi Realtor,
Nohemi Realtor, and that's on Facebook.
Instagram.
And the Instagram. So if anyone wants to follow her, she has a lot of content and a lot of sold properties that she is posting. Please follow the team.
Thank
With
you.
that being said, I want to thank you for your
Thank you.
time. Congratulations on your
Thank
huge success and taking the time this morning to talk to us and the
Thank
team
you.
here.
Thank you
So,
for tuning in. I know it's early.
yeah. So again, I appreciate your time and everyone have a wonderful afternoon and Friday and a good weekend as well. So thanks everyone
Thank
for
you.
tuning in. Take care now.
Amazing. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. Let me go ahead and stop recording. Thanks, everyone.
Hi.